Hi, I'm Ed Winchester.
No, I'm not, but I am in Winchester, a city found in Hampshire, and I'm on the hunt for a useless road bridge, an old dual carriageway, and maybe some old railway just for good measure. The search begins on the south side of Winchester at a place called St Catherine's Hill. Today, the M3 motorway winds around the hill to its east side, but it wasn't always like this. Before the M3 was built, there was a dual carriageway in its place known as the A33. However, take a look at this old map and you can see that the A33 used to run to the west side of St Catherine's Hill, and it's this old road that's the subject of today's video. The A33, or Winchester Bypass, was first thought up in the 1920s. Even way back then, the city was struggling with the level of traffic passing through, and a bypass was seen as the solution to all of the problems. Construction would begin in 1931, however, was quickly halted because the project ran into financial difficulties. For a few years, not a lot would happen, but in 1934 they decided to crack on with the project, but before doing so they would redesign the entire road, upgrading it to a decently sized dual carriageway, which in the 1930s was quite ambitious. The route for the new road would run for about 5 miles around the east of Winchester from Kingsworthy to Compton, and by 1940 it was complete and open to traffic. To make construction a little easier and cheaper, on the section of road around St Catherine's Hill, they built the road alongside an existing railway. The railway was built in the late 1880s and was known as the Didcot, Newbury and Southampton Railway, although interestingly, the railway didn't run to Southampton. The company that ran the line had to borrow some railway from a rival company in order to get their trains to Southampton. But anyway, none of that matters really, because the railway closed in the 1960s and has long since been removed. The reason for bringing it up is because today it's a footpath, and along the way you'll find a few examples of old railway bridges and infrastructure, a particular highlight being the Hockley Viaduct, which you may have spotted as you drive along the M3 motorway. The M3 motorway came about in the early 1970s, and like most motorways, it was built in sections over a period of several years. The M3 wouldn't make it to Winchester until 1985, but even by the mid-80s, the motorway still wasn't finished, and the M3 came to an end at Winchester, where the A33 would take over, so you'd have a motorway depositing all of its traffic onto a smaller road that had junctions, traffic lights, and all sorts of obstacles. In 1992, another section of the M3 would be complete, further compounding the issue with motorway traffic approaching Winchester from two directions, and the 1930s built A33 was somewhat struggling. So what was the hold-up? Why not convert the A33 to a motorway and jobbed? Well, unfortunately, it's never that simple, is it? The problem is, the A33 was never designed with high-speed motorway traffic in mind, and some of its corners are perhaps a bit tight for a motorway, and at the south end of the road there's a bit of a railway that gets in the way. They could have turned this all into a motorway, but the chances are it would have needed to have had a lower speed limit for safety, and that makes the whole motorway thing a bit pointless. So we can't convert the existing road. Fair enough, we'll just build a new one, which, as we can see today, they did, but at the time this presented a different set of issues. The main problem starts with St Catherine's Hill. You can't just bulldoze a hill. Well, you can, but in this case it's of historical importance, so that needed to be left well alone. So the first idea was to send the motorway along the River Itchen Valley to the west side of the hill, but this was ruled out because it would ruin the river and a fair chunk of Winchester would have to be demolished. Stuck for options, they came up with a plan to route the motorway through Tifford Down, a beautiful piece of countryside made up of chalk hills. This was opposed by everyone, so they went back to the drawing board and they realised that the motorway really did need to go that way, so what about a tunnel? It could be done, but the cost ruled it out fairly quickly, and there was the suggestion that a tunnel could impact on the environment more so than just smashing through the downs with a motorway. So that's what they did, and in the mid-1990s the M3's missing section was finally complete, much to the disappointment of everyone. As a result of the M3 motorway, the A33 around St Catherine's Hill became surplus to requirements and was getting in the way, so the road was removed and returned to nature, leaving very little trace of this 1930s dual carriageway. However, there is one very obvious reminder of the dual carriageway, and it's the useless road bridge that I mentioned at the beginning. Just off junction 10 of the M3 is Bar End Road, and when you drive along you might not notice that you're crossing over a bridge, and indeed nature has done its best to hide what was previously here. Looking at an old aerial photo from 1999 may help, as it reveals the bridge that today is a bit harder to spot. You may have worked out already that the reason the bridge exists is because underneath it used to run the A33 dual carriageway. The road layout was a lot different back then, and this photo from 1973 shows us how things used to look. Whilst the bridge used to be part of a major dual carriageway junction, struggling to keep up with motorway traffic being thrown at it from all directions, today it has a far easier life as a simple bridge over nothing on a B road. To be fair, it's not completely useless because it's still in use today, but its use of carrying a road over a major dual carriageway ended a long time ago, and there's no chance of things changing. There's just no need to put a road here, and even if there was, a lot of the old road has been built on now, so that would make things rather challenging. Or would it? Maybe like the M3, they just smash their way through. Thanks for watching.